Well, mailbag time. Where we starting off?
Our first one. Which Nebraska assistant coach has impressed you the most thus far?
I'll say Terrence Knighton.
Ooh, hello.
I just think the job he's done up front. I mean, the goal line stand at Illinois, Nash Hutmacher's noticeable improvement. I mean, just getting freshman players out there to make contributions. I mean, he's been my probably most impressive guy.
Van Poppel. I mean, he's gotten Van Poppel in position. Well, Van Poppel made the stop on the goal line at the 1 on the first drive.
Well,
yeah, and you'd say that. Yeah, and those young guys have come along well. Cam Linhart, but also Ty Robinson's played well.
Mm-hmm. I'll say Rob Dvorak.
Whoa.
If I'm not going to double up, I'll say Rob Dvorak, because look at that linebacking group and how well they've been playing.
Really well.
Nick Henrich, veteran guy, is playing the best football of his career right now.
Yep.
You know, Luke Reimer was playing high-level football before his infection, and John Bullock's emergence, and Mekhi Bayer. You know, guys like that just come out of nowhere and become impact players. Like, you just go down the list of guys that have really elevated their games collectively in that linebacking core. I think that's a big part of Coach D.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. You know what? I'm not gonna make this too hard. We'll all pick someone different. Can I just say Tony White? I mean, Tony White's a hot coordinator right now. I mean, come on. I didn't expect what I'm seeing. I mean, there's no way I expected what I'm seeing. Like Nebraska, top 10 rush defense. Top 10 rush defense? What?
A scheme that's getting everybody kind of confused. I mean,
right. I did never, ever in August, if you would have said Sipple, they're going to be a top 25 defense, I would have said, okay, wait a second. Why? I mean, what were they last year?
The Big Ten West is why.
Well, no, it's some of that for sure. Some of that, but you know, they were 108th last year. Okay. So
even after the improvements they made late under Bill Bush,
you know, that's right. But by the way, I'm not a stats guy, and you guys know that. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about pure stats. I'm talking about what I see. And what I see is you don't see busts. You see them flying around. You see multiple hats to the ball. How often do you see busts in this defense?
Rarely.
Visible busts. And how often did we see them previously? Quite much.
And the perimeter tackling is really good.
Really good perimeter tackling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If there's a good player like Isaiah Williams or Smoke, whatever his name was, Smoke Harris, they snuff those guys out pretty well. Mm-hmm. They really do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With Sims healthy and Rule still going with Harburg, in your mind, what did Harburg do to keep the starting spot?
Well, never mind us.
He went 3-1.
Yeah.
Well, never mind us. Satterfield explained it today, Abby. I mean, he fits best with what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the plan. This wasn't the plan, what they're doing, but they run the ball well. And you know, they're relying on their defense, and he's taking care of the ball.
Yeah. He's doing enough to win games, and for the most part, protecting the football. That's the easiest answer you could possibly have on that.
Okay, next one. Compare and contrast Matt Rule's press conferences with those of previous coaches.
You know, I think as far as a public presenter, speaker, I don't know if there's been anybody better at Nebraska. I mean, when you think about coaches and how they present and just how they're always on, you know, like there'd be days where you just knew some previous coaches, like this is going to be a terrible press conference. Like they don't want to be here.
Right.
They don't want to take questions.
Right. Scott.
Or they're just not going to say anything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Matt Rule doesn't have those days up there. I mean,
not really.
I think he really understands the power of his press conference, the power of his voice, and what he says in the state. And he puts a lot of thought into what he says.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is by design. I mean, he wants to be the voice of this program. You've noticed that with just the access that his other staff does have, which is limited compared to previous years, like with assistant coaches. But anybody who talks is basically echoing whatever Matt Rule says. And so really, like, he's the only one you really need to talk to. Obviously, player perspective is great and all, but like Matt Rule's message is going to be the message that everybody else on his team gives you. And so that, I think, like, go back to last year, how many conflicting messages were delivered between head coach and offensive coordinator, you know, or defensive coordinator, whatever it may be. You don't get that.
It was a
this
mess.
year. And so that, I think, Rule understands, like to Sean's point, the importance of those press conferences, to where he goes to the podium with the intent to deliver messages, both to the fans, to the media, and maybe most importantly, his own players.
That's called good leadership, by the way. Any like leadership seminar, if it would address like a head coach of a college program, would say that's critical. I mean, a consistent message.
Mhm.
And he is talking to a lot of different people. He's talking to, like you said, assistants, players, and fans. He does want the message to be consistent. So yeah, Rule, I've said it many times now. I don't know that he'll succeed here as a head football coach. I don't know. And I don't know, but I will say this. He's a leader. I mean, he's a guy you'd want running a corporation.
Mhm.
And he'd probably do a good job.
Well, and one thing they've done away with, I mean, during the season is we don't hear the assistants talk other than the coordinators. And I don't want to say that's by design because we might hear from them again later, but
yeah, it might.
it helps kind of control things a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because
it does.
It is unique at Nebraska when 40 people are interviewing a 24-year-old wide receivers coach.
That's true, Sean, but you're old enough, and I think Rob's old enough. You remember Osborne, who was the quintessential Nebraska coaching leader, incredible leader. His assistants talked. It wasn't a problem.
But there wasn't all the cameras and
True.
Yeah,
things
they talked to like
around them.
5 dudes
Yeah.
after practice.
Like,
It's that.
Trying to get like assistant coaches to talk big picture about like the program and stuff. I mean,
Right.
it just
No, that's true, Sean. This is a whole discussion we could have. It's a fascinating one, actually. But you're right. We would often do that with the running backs coach. Talk about the program like you're the head coach.
and then his comments would overshadow sometimes the head coach's comments.
Right. They would. And that's a problem.
Like, I mean, there would be like Ron Brown when he would talk would say so much. Sometimes you're like, God, he's a really good quote. Like you're going to use him over Bo Pelini
Absolutely.
because Bo didn't even want to talk to us.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right.
And so there
We don't have that situation.
there would be
anymore.
certain assistant coaches on those days where you would run over to that guy because you're like, well, he's going to write my story for me.
Absolutely. And he became kind of the spokesman of the day. It can work that way. I mean, Bo Pelini had a 721 winning percentage here. So it wasn't like he led all right. But those situations can be awkward.
All right. Final question, Abby Barmore.
Okay, this one needs some explaining. So there's a trend on social media where a lot of people talk about the Roman Empire, specifically how often men or just people in general think about the Roman Empire. So I had to ask, what is your Roman Empire? And we got to go outside of the Huskers because, of course, we think about them a lot. That's our job.
All right. Mine, probably to no surprise, Robin, is travel.
Yeah.
Hotels.
No question.
Like trying to arrange the best possible trips.
And then
for-
then finding the best steakhouse within each location or restaurant,
like
bar.
I've been tasked, like somehow I just assigned myself to helping On3 put together this trip to Chicago.
Oh, shocking.
And I've already been in contact with the person at the Wrigley Hotel, and like we got everything rolling. So
Yeah. In another life, Sean would be a tier 1 travel agent.
yeah, no traveling trips, and we've taken care of you, Steve.
Oh my
You
God.
graduated from the days of the La Quinta Inns, the
Right.
Nights Inns, and
No, I don't mind saying that
the
publicly.
meals at Denny's,
No, the Journal Star treated us fine, but there's been an upgrade. Go ahead, Rob.
the La Quinta Inn.
For me, it's just got to be fantasy football. And I say that because like as we're watching the show, like I saw that Julio Jones just signed with the Eagles, and I'm like, oh, how can I move my roster? Like I'm like mid-sentence talking about Nebraska's quarterback situation. I'm thinking about waiver wire pickups with fantasy football. I am heavily invested in one of my dynasty leagues. Think about it pretty much 50 times a day in various forms. So it's got to be that.
The only thing I can say, and this isn't going to be a perfect fit, and I'm going to surprise you a little bit with this, but this is what goes through my head a lot. What would I do with time? Because we don't have a lot of it. But what I would do is probably take up golf and try to get so good that I could play on a senior tour. I've thought about it. I mean, I've thought about that a lot. That
I've
would
never
be
seen you golf once.
I've golfed. I used to play a lot when I was a kid, but I don't even have clubs anymore. But I think I could, if I had the time, I could get pretty. And you know me, I'm fairly obsessive. You know, I could get very obsessive about golf and just make it my life. But I don't think that's ever.
I've
gonna
heard retirement golf is not near as fun as just like spontaneous friend golf.
happen. Yeah,
Like there's retired guys. It's like, oh, after a while, like golfing feels like work.
it comes a job. Well, it'd be my job because I'd be playing on a senior tour,
That's right.
age 55 and
Be
up.
cashing big enough checks to make
Yeah.
it worth your while.
Get a sponsor. Get sponsors.
Abby, what's yours? Or did I put you on the
Well,
spot?
we were talking about this earlier, but
Go ahead.
I think about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce all the time. I know it's super lame, but it's true. And as a Swiftie and a big Chiefs fan, this has been quite the thing
Yeah,
for
worlds
me.
collided there.
Yeah, it's
You're a
been
Swiftie.
wild. Yeah.
Oh God.
Did you go to the movie?
I went to the movie last weekend. I
Get
also
out.
went to her concert actually in Kansas City, night
Damn.
2.
Man.
Oh really? How was it?
It was good.
And nobody ever says a
incredible.
bad thing. Yeah, incredible.
I mean,
Ford.
she is a great performer. It was really something to watch, and even the movie, it's very different than being in a big old stadium because it's pretty up close and you get to see all the details and everything's very detailed.
Taylor Swift.
What I'm amazed is that she's going to every game still. Like she missed the one, obviously, at Minnesota, I think, but like her presence has been at like every one. I mean, you'd think after what, but like it's real, clearly.
Yeah.
I think it's real. I'm wildly skeptical about the whole thing, but let's not get into that.
I just can't wait for the breakup song.
Yeah.